Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter, and this is Smart Business Moves. Last day of the month of November. Holy cow, how did we get here? Our guest today is Therese Richardson.
Yep.
Therese, how are you today?
Fine. How are you?
Doing awesome. Therese is a owner of a unique cleaning business model. She's going to be telling us about it, and she's going to be telling us specifically how to use some tools and techniques from Six Sigma quality management philosophy that we can apply it to our businesses. And this is going to be really cool because we're kind of nerdy when it comes to stuff like that.
Me too.
Yeah, love it, love it.
So, hey, Leslie, how are you? Denise, okay, we got the gang here. We're getting started, but before we get too deep into what we're going to be talking about today, why don't we go ahead and talk about what we're going to be doing for the rest of the week? So we got Sherry Ann Woolley. It's going to be with us Tuesday. We've known Sherry Ann for a good while. We spent a week with her in the mansion down on Isle of Palms for Foundations, didn't we?
Yeah, you know what, Tom? She gave me a new title and I forgot to update the spreadsheet. So I'll just tell you what it is. The systems that saved my $$ during the pandemic.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, darn, I really wish I would have put that in there. But it's basically the same topic. She's really well known for her strong systems, and I can't wait to hear the specifics that she's going to bring.
$.
Yeah.
That is good.
Okay.
And Wednesday, Amy Wiggs King is going to be with us.
Yep. Amy's going to be talking about weeding out the riffraff, which right now I think we're all really focused on hiring and getting good people in. And it's a struggle right now just to get enough people. But we can't let go of the piece of making sure that you get good people too, because otherwise you end up with, a negative company culture and your quality starts to drop. So she's going to walk us through this process of weeding out the riffraff, which I'm looking forward to.
Thursday.
Who's that guy?
Oh, wait a minute. I know him. That's me. Yeah. Liz and I have been thinking about, getting towards the end of the year and getting ready for next year, knowing that next year is going to be awesome compared to what we've worked with here in 2020. And we want to make sure that we're taking the opportunity here over the last month of 2020 to get ready for an awesome 2021. And we're going to kind of do a best of the best of KPIs that we should be getting our tracking ready going into 2021, knowing it's going to be a much better year. We want to make sure that we have the numbers that we need in order to get all the results that we need to achieve within our business. And the time to get ready for 2021 is in 2020. So we're going to be doing several I guess really more formal presentations where we're going to be sharing a lot of information with you over the next month. And this is kind of the start of that, all in the spirit of getting ready for the new year. And we love numbers. So that's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Tom loves him some KPIs. You will be seeing all this stuff, Teresa, depending on when you pick orientation for your MMA orientation time, we'll be introducing you to the KPI spreadsheets as well. So it's going to be a lot of KPI talking over the course of the next week.
Wonderful. So although my presentation is geared more towards how to use this methodology for the home, you can absolutely use it for the business or for your office setting. And you can use KPIs to track its effectiveness and efficiencies and seeing how this is really going to help you drive down the costs of your business. So if you have any questions after the presentation, just let me know. But again, this is geared towards more of a practical application for our clients. But it spans across a lot of different areas. So
before we dive too deep into your formal presentation, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
take that wherever you want to go. Just introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So, hello, everyone. My name is Therese Richardson, and I'm the owner of Household 6 Home Services. Prior to me starting on the entrepreneurial path, I've been a trained Lean Six Sigma black belt for the past 15 years. I started my career off learning the different methodologies like Red X, Lean Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma, starting off at General Motors, working towards Chrysler. Then I went into logistics, IT, healthcare, and now I'm applying my learnings to this particular venture that I've started. So being able to understand what really helps people, how to make things easier, how to make them more efficient. I've never met anyone that doesn't want to save money, from a larger corporation to a smaller, business entity. Really having an impact on the bottom line and being able to capture as much revenue, profit share, market share, whatever you want to call it, is important. So the better we manage our systems, the better we manage our business, the more capital we have to either invest, expand, etc. So the tools that I'm going to be this particular tool that I'm going to be introducing is again designed for a client-facing experience. However, using 5S even in your office setting to help understand how things flow, what's the most efficient way to do things, where are the tools that you need, how can we use these things to impact waste, reduce waste, and capture more of that money that we all love, the green stuff or the, credit card stuff. It's really important. So I know that I talk fast, and this is really a passion of mine. So if I do talk too fast, just let me know. I'll bring it back a little bit. And I do have a timer because that's the way I've been trained.
We'll break in with questions as they come up. Shared the link to your website in the chat, and I've got it up here on the screen.
Okay.
This is an interesting business model. Could you just share a little bit about your focus in your house cleaning business and the things that make it unique?
Sure. So actually, this started off as, honestly, I didn't even think I'd be here right now doing this. I actually started this business to help. So I have a saying, when you have a passion and you do something to help, things grow out of it, right? So servant leadership's always been important to me. So I was down in Juarez, Mexico, and I was traveling over the border every day. For business, I was a global operational excellence manager. So one of my locations was in Juarez. And while there, I kind of bumped into my forever man. So kind of said, career, good guy. I don't know. Let's go with the good guy. So I walked away from corporate, and through my experiences with him, I met a lot of military families and military personnel, and I never really understood their struggle. So the only friend that I had at the time, she was very distraught. And, being in El Paso, you have to have a certain skill set. Like if you don't speak Spanish, it's very hard to get a job. Okay. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the military life, but military families move a certain time period and it's consistent. So it's like 12 to 18 months. They're moving, they're shifting, they're going to location to location. So her biggest issue was finding a job, and her husband said, you're going to have to go back home if you can't find a job. So I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. You're smart. Like, we have to find an opportunity here. So that opportunity, married with the opportunity of my forever man of not having time to do certain things, kind of came together, and we started Household 6 Home Services. So does anyone understand what Household 6 means? Because I didn't until I found out.
No.
Okay, so Household 6 is the pet name for the person who's running the household. So in the military, you all have all these Alpha Bravos, all these names that they have on base. And at home, the person who runs the household, lovingly, it's called Household 6. So that's where we got the name from. And we provide home services to the military community. We do home cleanings. We have several different types. We have decluttering and organization. We have date night and just because care for the families. And we also have bundled services packages that we can kind of pick and choose to help the families, you know, be more efficient, basically get them what they want. Another thing that's really different about my company is that we prefer to hire military affiliated individuals. And that's a couple reasons. So we know that the military pay is based on rank, right? And regardless of how many family members, it's still based on rank. So by providing a financial opportunity to the families has been a big give back to me, because I see how much they struggle. And it's really heartwarming to me to be able to provide these individuals with some financial relief. Also with my company, our model is different because it needs to be very flexible based on the family environment. So a lot of times, you know, you'll get a call saying, you know, hey, your husband needs to be in the field next week. So if I have a job, part-time or full-time, and my husband's leaving, I don't have childcare. I don't have any way to help me with the household. What's going to happen? 9 times out of 10, you'll be relieved, right? Because you can't fulfill your shift.
Right.
So, you know, when you're able to have that flexible model and you're able to help these families, it really does a good service. It also helps with the work history. I used to be a hiring manager, so I know I'm guilty of it. When you look through an employment history and you look at someone's resume, and if there's big gaps, you're like, you know, let's move on, because I gotta go. I don't have time for this. And again, I am guilty of it myself. So what I've done is I have 3 locations now, and depending on if we're at a location, you can move from one duty station to the next without a break in your work history. So by the time these ladies or these individuals go out and, you know, they finish their degree or whatever, they'll have a continuation of their work history to give them a better opportunity to get a job. So
How long have you been doing Household 6?
January.
Okay. Well, that's awesome.
I'm kind of fumbling through the dark here, but it seems to be getting a little lighter, you know, so
Getting a little bit of traction.
Yeah, I get a little bit of traction. So the model's working. My first success story was from Bliss to Bragg, and the young lady I hired was very pregnant, and her husband received orders to go to Fort Bragg. So we were able to make sure she had work ready when she got there and she was available, and she picked up with no break at all. And as a matter of fact, she's doing so well, I promoted her to manager. So,
well, you certainly have a unique model here, and you know, a higher purpose. I mean, all of this is admirable, and it's really cool. So,
thank you.
You want to tell us a little bit about your experience in Six Sigma, and specifically the 5 S's that you want to talk about today?
Sure, absolutely. So Lean Six Sigma is a combination of a lot of tools. There are different phases that you need to go by to really get the larger benefits of having a project. So I liken it to a triangle. So you have at the top, you have Lean, and then you have Six Sigma, and then you have project management. So really, in order for you to have a successful project, you need to have all 3 elements within a project. I'm sure, as you know, in a tool set, a tool is just a tool until you know how to use it, until you know how to implement. So there are various tools in the Lean Six Sigma tool set. There's DMAIC, there's Lean. Within Lean, you have 5S, you have, you know, different type of pain point exercises. You can do a value stream, you can do you know, process map. There's a ton of things that you can do. how can I say this? So when you're trained in specific tools, you get used to knowing, like, you know what, I need this tool, or you know what, I think this one worked better. I got an early education in that when I went from manufacturing to healthcare. Healthcare, they're like, listen, Linda, we don't have time for all these tools. Just pick what you need and let's go. So when you have to look at, turnaround time for patients, getting back to the ER, how long does it take a physician to see a patient? How long does it take to them to go upstairs? When you look at logistics, how can I get my product from A to B with the most, with the shortest timeline, less expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So I have been doing this for 15 years. I've had some amazing mentors and teachers. I've been exposed to a ton of tools. One tool can have 50 names, but it's the same tool. So I don't really get too bogged down by the actual name. For me, it's application and how to execute, as well as how to bring the team together to use it.
Well, so while you're talking to us today, while you're going through your PowerPoint, Theresa, sounds like this is more customer focused. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you can point out at the same time while you're going through how that applies to us, how we might use that.
Absolutely.
And Tom, I know you're really interested. You have a million questions, but we need to let her start presenting.
So I do have a couple pictures that I can send you after, but one of the applications to this that popped in my head when he was talking, it's so simple. It's our supplies. So when I first started, and I don't really, trying to figure out what's going on, my supplies were in a box. So I wasted a lot of time trying to find this or find that. Eventually, I took a step back. I'm like, all right, Theresa, put your hat on, right? So as a result, we have designated supply boxes with labels on, what goes where, when do we need it, et cetera, et cetera. And it literally cut my time immensely to understand where my tools are.
So I think the 5 S's are going to talk to us about how important it is to cut time, right? So I think that's probably, we need to start there. Let's start with the 5 S's and then figure out how to implement from there. I think I think people are really going to find a lot of value from that exercise.
Absolutely.
Nobody has really seen this yet in our industry.
Sure.
If you look down at the bottom of the screen, you should see a bar of options, and one of them is share screen.
Yeah, I see it.
If you click on that, it will share your screen.
Okay.
And then you'll need to make your PowerPoint presentation after you start sharing.
Okay. And again, if you guys have questions, just let me know.
I will interrupt. Have no fear. I am very good.
I promise you, she will interrupt.
I will interrupt.
Do I need a pen? Should I write? All right. Let me do this right now. Hold on one second. Okay. Okay, just 1 second. So can you see my screen?
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Not yet? Okay. Okay, 1 second. My entire screen. Application window.
One of these days we'll do this before we go live, Tom.
That's no fun.
This is called messing up the process. I'm so sorry.
No, it's not you. We do this every time.
All right. Let me see. Share my screen. Share audio. Share this. Can you see me now?
Yep.
Nope.
Screen?
Yep.
Okay.
That's Tom, Ken.
All right. Got it. All right. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I kind of already broke into this. My name is Theresa, and I'm from Household 6 Home Services. And I'm going to walk you through how using 5S can create a clean and organized home. But again, the application can go across your workspace, your office, any type of environment that you want to be more efficient and effective in.
Hey, Theresa, there's a little annoying bar at the bottom. It says, yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I kind of briefly went over who we are, Household 6 Home Services. And again, we have 3 locations right now. Our flagship, Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and JBLM, which we just started operations here. So I get the question all the time, what is 5S? 5S is really a good housekeeping methodology for you to use to be more effective and efficient in your business. So when I say housekeeping, I don't mean of the home, I mean of your environment. This methodology is actually a proven methodology, and it was derived from a man named Tachi Ono from Toyota, who had a hand in the Toyota production system and lean manufacturing. So there are a ton of benefits for 5Sing. And, you know, when I talk to people about 5S, they get a bit anxiety. They have a little anxiety about it. They think, oh, it's going to be too hard. It's about Toyota. It is absolutely an easy, efficient, and effective tool to use to make your life better. So some of the benefits of 5S is obviously waste reduction. So you have a reduction in the movement, in the time it takes you to do things. It helps you with cost. It helps you be more efficient, more organized. And again, it's really an inexpensive, easy to use tool, but it's very, very impactful. So, you know, there's an old adage, a place for everything and everything in its place. And that is completely correct. And that's what this is. But it's a deeper dive into the actual methodology and how to do things. It's a continuous life cycle from the start to the finish. And it's really going to help you impact several areas like your home, your work, your office, your schools, anywhere that you want to be more efficient, more effective, and have cost in mind, you can use 5S.
So when you're talking about 5S, Theresa, are you going to explain about sort, set, standardize, etc.?
100%. So thank you for that lead in. There's actually going to be a really brief knowledge check at the end, just to make sure that I'm explaining myself properly. And if there's any questions, we can kind of talk over that. So at the end of the presentation, 4 real simple questions to see where we're at. So what is 5S? 5S is a series of steps to help you, as I stated, become more efficient, effective, and cost-minded. So it's sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. So as you follow these 5 S's, it really takes you through the whole life cycle of what you're trying to achieve. This is by no means a one and done activity. It needs to be consistent, and it needs to be accountable, and people need to have ownership for the work that we've done. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about what it actually is. You have to start with sort. Sort is the most important thing when you're walking into a new area, because it helps you to understand things in your environment. You want to eliminate unnecessary things, keep only what you need, and you make sure that you understand what frequency to use these things. So I have a funny story. So I cook twice a year, right? Christmas and Thanksgiving, that's it. And every year my family loves the mac and cheese that I make. And every year I go out and I do the shopping, of course. So one of the key ingredients of my mac and cheese is paprika. Now I'm always running. Go to the store. Oh my gosh, I got to get paprika. I buy the paprika. I did it again this year, and I promised myself I wouldn't, but I did. And when I got back home and I looked at my cabinet, I have 4 other jars of paprika. So I did not follow my own 5S. When I looked to see what do I need, I didn't check. It cost me time. It cost me additional money when I should have followed the system that I put in place. So sorting and understanding what you need is very important, and what you don't need, right?
So an example of sort for our businesses might be like right now, we're going into business planning for 2021. Yeah. An example of sorting might be figuring out what you're going to need to do and what you're going to need to not do over the course of the next year to be able to have your best outcomes. Would that be right?
You could apply it to that as well. I think in business planning, it needs to go up a couple levels to understand,
Mhm.
what activities do you want to engage in? What activities have you kind of engaged in? What activities did you make no money at all? Right. That's
Yep.
what I'm doing in my business right now. We had like 5 or 6 offerings. 3 of those offerings didn't take off at all. So you don't want to waste your time on or energy or resources on those activities themselves.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I mentioned earlier was your supply list or in your office setting. How much time do you spend looking for things on your desk that you need right away? How much time do you spend looking for the tools for your job when you have, X amount of time to get to that next meeting? So when you do a 5S properly, it reduces the waste in the system. It's called Tim Wood R, and I can send you what that is later. But it focuses on reducing a time waste, motion waste, excessive material, cost, etc. So really being able to understand how to remove the waste from your system will help you become more efficient and cost effective.
Awesome.
Okay. So set in order. This is where you take what you've sorted out and then design a layout to put together the things that you use on a more frequent basis. It helps to eliminate search time and honestly stress and strain. So again, when you have the things that you need in front of you, you're not stressing, you're not overreacting, you get what you need and you go, right? So a lot of the things that we don't measure because we don't understand the cost structure towards it is our time and our effort, right? In a true lean system, you really do take that into consideration when you're looking at your ROI. So if I'm spending X amount of time fumbling through, the whole stack of papers or going through my supply list or trying to figure out even my FTE assignments, right? If it's not organized and it's not together, you're going to waste your time. You're going to waste resources. You're going to waste effort. And those things, although they're not quantitative right now, they will be when it comes time to balance those books, right? It's something you can't see, but you should see and measure.
Right. And so this is the starting spot for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And then, so sort and set are really at the beginning of the process. So shine is a continuation of the work that you've done in sort and set. So from the example that I have here for home cleaning, it's really understanding that whole cleaning or that whole making sure things are organized and clean or visible, I should say visible, is a form of inspection, right? So making sure that you establish a baseline of where you need to go is important during this phase. And I would also for the home example, or even in the office, I would definitely include the client in all of these or the team members in all of these decisions. Because one of the things that I've learned early on is when you go into a client's home or you go into a client's business and you do the work yourself and you don't include them the way you should or the team members, what happens when you walk away?
Yeah, it doesn't happen the way that you want it to happen. That's
Absolutely.
So if we're going back to this idea of 2021 and business planning, shine, I think the word shine can be a little bit confusing in our industry.
Yep.
Because people can think literally shining something, but right, it's easy, especially since your example is about cleaning. It can
Yep.
be easy to think about shining, but in the 5S language, shine does not mean physically shining something with a cloth and making it sparkle.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean sparkle. It
Exactly.
means. So how would you give me an example of what it might mean, Theresa, for like if we were doing business planning and we sorted out what we are going to do and what's not working and we're eliminating waste and we're picking the things, now we're setting the things that we are going to do and making sure that we've chosen the things that are not going to be, what would the shine be?
First thing that popped into my head is a spreadsheet, right? So when you're doing your business planning and you're understanding what worked in 2020, what didn't work in 2020, you want to carry the things over from 2020 to 2021, right?
Yeah.
So in my experience, you have a spreadsheet full of items. I can just go back to my client list. It's a mess, right? So when you go through and you focus on the clients that you've had a great interaction or activities that you've had great response, you want to move that to a different area instead of having it all combined into one tab. The cleanliness or the shine or whatever word you want to use really helps you to differentiate what's working, what's not, what do we need to focus on, and making sure that input from your team is there so they all understand what it is, what it means, where it's at, and it's informative, it's uniform, and it's organized. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so a nice simple way of talking about shine is making sure that it is something that everybody is on the same page with, and we're all agreeing that this is the what looks good and what is going to work for our team.
Absolutely.
So
in an organizational perspective, I mean, I guess you could call it buy-in and consensus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Honestly, I think buy-in and consensus should be from the start. And it's a carry over to the activity that you're engaging in. Again, the sort and the set are like the foundation of what you're trying to build. The shine, the standard, and the sustain are the continuation and improvement, continuous improvement of the work you're doing. So we can have more questions on that as you can see the examples. And again, this is more towards a home or a client, but the application spans across the spectrum. And obviously I can kind of give me an example and I can kind of think about it and pop in a recommendation. Again, I've been doing this so long, it's like a second nature to me. So it's fun, enjoyable. So you're not going to bore me or, whatever.
Well, you probably noticed I haven't had a problem interrupting you or asking any questions.
That's awesome. Okay, do we have any other questions on this side?
And usually the people don't put a lot of questions from the group. They're usually more like, okay. But don't worry, I'll ask a ton.
Well, I'm hoping they see dollar signs on this and they'll be asking some questions to help them, keep that money that they're spending.
And that actually is the bottom line of all of the Six Sigma lean teachings and tools is around the idea of having more money at the end of the day and using less effort to get more money. I mean,
100%.
Bottom line, y'all, is less effort, more money at the end of the day.
I'm pretty sure if I were to, walk into an office and I could observe, I can help understand the areas that you want to reduce your waste to be able to capture more of that revenue and to keep the revenue. So even from a simple time study on how long it takes to do X, Y, and Z, you'll be surprised to see how much waste is in a system.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So standardize. Standardize is the best way to establish the standard for maintaining. So we do a lot of work in sort, set, and shine. The last thing you're going to want to do is not put a standard in and walk away. So in terms of office or in terms of personal space, I actually worked with a gentleman who was my biggest detractor for a 5S project. He thought for sure I was a magician and I pulled rabbits out of my hat. So he wanted to go back to his home to try it to see if it really made an impact. What he did was he 5S'd his garage and his tool area. And he even did a cork board with visual management. We call it shadow boxing. So what he did was he outlined all of his tools. So it was very easy and simple for him to do a visual management check, walk by and see what was missing or, what he needed to find or what have you. And when everything had a place, it was just there. So it reduced his time of searching for things. He knew exactly where everything was. And I tell you, that's the best story I have of this because he was my biggest cheerleader. We even tried to buy him pom-poms because he was just so impressed. And he was a believer because, again, this methodology is easy and it's simple. And sometimes people think it's so simple, there has to be a catch, but there's no catch. All it takes is time and effort and the willingness to do it and carry it forward. So standardizing, of course, when you talk about areas, you want to make sure that perhaps for the home, we have different levels of service. So for basic to, we call it the Target package, to Pinterest Pretty. So depending on the level that the client wants or the team wants, you can really find a process or a standard that will speak to what they need done. All right. Sustain. So sustain is making sure accountability and setting the example to maintain what you've done happens. It takes full participation to develop it, and it takes full participation to develop the habits that maintain that. So I have a question. Sure.
So if we were talking about standardize, we would talk about another way to talk about that is a system, putting the system in place. And then the sustain is being accountable to the system, just making sure that the system gets followed.
Absolutely.
So the first 3 steps are about deciding what we're going to do. The next 2 steps are about setting the system for them, for whatever we have decided we want to do. And then sustain is around making sure that it happens on a regular basis so that it doesn't get dropped and we don't fall back into old patterns and start doing the same old thing we did in 2019, 2020.
Absolutely.
Right. So
yeah, absolutely. So recently I actually became a certified change management practitioner. And that skill in and of itself is a very important within this process because people inherently don't like change, right? So for a business setting, if you say, hey team, we have a new tracking method and we're going to roll it out and we need everyone to follow it. Well, if John and Jennifer and, Barney love the old system, how are you going to get them to adapt to the new system, right? So having those skills and making sure there's accountability and ownership and buy-in is very important in sustain. Along with audits. So within a business practice, audits are very, very, very important. It could be a visual indicator. It could be a spot audit. It could be a metrics KPI audit to understand, hey, is what we put in place working? How is it impacting our bottom line? How is it impacting customer service? What is the impact to our employee morale? So a lot of the things that I just spoke to, team, I can translate that to a metric. We can look at KPIs and see, yes, it was easy. Yes, it was simple, but is it effective? And how is it impacting the business?
So I think another piece that would go here then is one of the things that Tom says a lot is what gets measured gets done.
Absolutely.
And so that falls in here too, as far as part of the sustain portion of the 5 S's. Is
Absolutely.
You can't just set up the system and then, all right, here you go, drop it in everybody's lap. Even if there was buy-in in the shine stage, right?
Absolutely.
Even if we got our buy-in at the shine stage, then we set up the system. We can't still drop it on the people and say, there you go, we all agreed it was good, go for it.
Yeah.
As part of the sustain portion, there needs to be an accountability piece.
Absolutely. Accountability, ownership, and if it's in a business setting or an office setting, I would highly recommend different audits by different levels of the organization. When I worked at Chrysler, we had a team leader on up for different audits at different intervals throughout the day, the week, the month, etc. And if you have any questions on that, I can definitely help you out with that as well. And they were quite impactful. So, to mimic what you were saying. What gets measured is what is treasured, right? That's what we used to say in manufacturing, et cetera. Because again, you're not going to put resources, time, and energy into something that's not important to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
So in a lot of these quality models, it's not like a destination where, okay, we're done with this now. Typically they loop back around. It's like, okay, I'm in sustain. What have we learned, and how can we make this better? So do we go back around to sort again?
Absolutely, because things change. Everything in business, I've learned, regardless of what business you're in, it's fluid, right? Your employees change, your supplies change, your technology changes, your business model might need to change, your offerings need to change. So there's nothing static, in my opinion, when it comes to the business. Even your morals, your values, or your vision, that might change over time to the environment that you're in. So one of the things that I've gotten really good at is having that continuous improvement mindset. You have to be able to change. It's like the dinosaurs, right? The dinosaurs didn't change, so what happened to them? They died, right? You don't want to die. You want to be alive. So you got to be okay with the change mentality. Change is good. You might fall, but you get back up. You might trip, but you know what? You pick up your step. It's not something that you can do and it's a one and done. It's a continuous evolution, a continuous improvement journey. And that's what I'm putting into my business to make sure that not only am I here from 10 years later, but I'm also helping and impacting families. So again, you have to be okay with, oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. It's okay.
So I guess the other part of this is, especially when you're adopting any new methodology, sometimes you can kind of get hung up on, am I doing this right? Am I getting
for sure.
But knowing that it's a continuous improvement cycle, it's about progress more than perfection. So
absolutely.
Yeah, you just keep moving. And if you didn't get it right, the last time, you'll make it right
next time. So
it's funny, get better.
Yep. Funny story. I'm very clumsy. They used to call me Grace in high school. So I actually had a rock on my desk back in my manufacturing days because I actually fell over the rock. And being a woman in manufacturing was tough in and of itself. But being in the area I was even worse. So the rock just reminded me, you know what? You fell over, you didn't die, get back up and keep moving forward. And you just have to be okay with making mistakes. And no one's perfect. Like the only person that died on the cross tens of thousands of years ago. It's like everyone's human. We make mistakes. We're in a people business. Things don't always go according to plan, and that's okay. Just keep moving, and you'll eventually get it. Learning is growth. Don't be a dinosaur, right?
Absolutely.
Or they die. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, we don't want to die. That's not good.
No. All right. So we had this discussion. In your opinion, which S is the most difficult to achieve? Just think it over, throw some things out to me. And what is your opinion? What is the most difficult S to achieve?
I can tell you personally, and for me, the most difficult S is sustain. Because it is so easy to say, okay, done.
Yeah.
and there is no done. And so that for me is the most difficult. I see people though, because of the MMA groups, and I work with people every day that are, having to set goals and having to work on their plans. I see people that struggle at all of these different spots. I see people that I would be working with somebody right now that really struggles with the shine phase. He really does not want to have to bring other people in and get buy-in. He wants to just be able to tell them, just do this thing, and that's their job. They should just do what I tell them. So I see people struggle at every level, but personally, sustain.
Okay. And you, Tom?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the sustain area as well. I'm a engineer in training, and I love building things, and that's the fun part. But once it's built, good management often is boring, and the sustainability part of it takes a different type of discipline.
It does. Absolutely. All right. Well, the answer is sustain. You are correct. So the answer here is for the client home, but we can talk about how sustain is also difficult to achieve in the office setting. Well, and for the home, it's because you have kids and pets, right? So when you sort it, you set it, you shine it, you standardize it, and you sustain it, you're dealing with more than likely adult people, right? So a habit for accountability has to grow. Kids don't just become, responsible or own a process from the get-go. You have to train them, just like in the work setting. You have to work with your team. You have to get their buy-in. You have to, train them. You have to take their ideas and implement. I think the biggest benefit that I've been able to hone in on is the voice of the team, because people want a hand in what they're doing to make a lasting impact and change. I've never met anyone that goes to work wanting to do a bad job. Unfortunately, you have a lot of people in the business sector that they don't want to hear the ideas of other people, right? Even though their ideas might be amazing, they just don't want to hear it. So what happens? The voices of the team dies. When you have one of your voices in your process dies, the other ones follow. Right? So you have the voice of the customer, you have the voice of the employee, the voice of the business, the voice of the process. And when you hush one, it impacts the others. So by pulling your team into these processes, you give them a voice. You give them the pride of saying, hey, that was my idea, and look what happened. We implemented and we're saving $20 gazillion. So it's very important to hone in on that if you want to sustain and you want to have the accountability and ownership within your process.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. But I have found that people struggle at all the different stages. Some people have a really hard time really just sorting. They can't prioritize. Everything seems important. And if you can't, and so one of the things I really like about the 5 S's is, and Tom said it earlier, you don't have to get it perfect. Yeah. Just start. You can't do everything. You can't. And if you can't decide, then just pick some. Pick some Absolutely. And get rid of some. Good enough. And let's move on to set.
So we're going to get into more of a practical application of what the 5 S's. And this is just a representation of a client who her husband was in the field for a few months. She was like 20 months pregnant. She had kids everywhere. The kids were having class at home. She was trying to work. And she called us to help her declutter and organize her workspace for herself, as well as her online schooling for her kids. So that's just an example of what 5S can do, but we're going to get a little bit deeper into it. And I'll give you some examples from a business perspective. So whenever you ask somebody where do you want us to start? They really don't have any clue. So I've always been the student of the biggest beast is what you want to capture, right? So the biggest beast of a home is usually the kitchen. Everybody's in the kitchen. They're cooking, they're cleaning, they're talking, they're playing. Some are watching TV, some are doing homework. So the kitchen's a good place to start, right? So again, when you look at where do I start my 5S, you start broad and then you kind of go down. That's the funnel shape. That's where we usually go in terms of, when you understand what metric you're trying to impact, where do we start now? So this example is going to be the kitchen. All right. So this is another example of a client who called us needing help. So this is a sort phase. One of the things that is very, very helpful in a sort phase is the 3-bin method. Now you can use this figuratively, or if you're looking for a spreadsheet, you can have it a bit more abstract. But in order for you to sort properly, you need to understand the frequency of use or the frequency of impact. So you have your daily pile, your rarely pile, and your never pile. So your never, let me just throw this out here now before I forget, but it's important, especially now during these times, to look at what's in your never pile, and either decide to donate it or to throw it away. We'll get back to that later. But for the 3-bin method, it's important to understand, what do I need? What tools do I need to do my job every day versus once a week or once a month, which is, or the never pile, which is, I don't use this at all. Do you have any questions?
Yeah,
No.
I'm going to try and hold my questions because we only have like 9 minutes left. And you know me,
okay.
I can ask a million.
Okay, I'll hurry. So sort is the bin method. This is the playroom. Again, it's an example of how we use the bin system. If you're at home, make sure the kids are not in the room when you try to do this, because you're going to hang on to everything. Set and order. So basically, once you decide what your pile is, you're going to want to set the things that you have in your piles according to usage, frequency, and flow. Shine, again, making sure things are clean and orderly. When you're able to keep what you've done clean and making sure you understand where everything is at, and you do a quick visual indicator, the next time you go do that job or the next time you're in that area, your process will flow more efficiently. So standardize, I think this is one of the examples I just wanted to impress upon everyone, is standardize. People think that, it's such a hard thing and we can't get people to do it, but we actually have examples of standardization in our own home. Ever since you were little, you have, your dishwasher and your dishes, and okay, where do we put this forks, knives, and spoons? You have a drawer, very specific. You have little compartments for each one, and you were trained on how to do this. So if you want to eat, you know where to go get a fork. If you have to put your dishes away, you know where to get a fork. And you start very young and you move up, and now it's like second nature to have this type of standardized tool in your home.
So do you find, Teresa, sorry,
I
said I was going to wait. See, I don't know how to do that.
She did as well as she can, Therese.
Yeah, that was as good as I could do. I gave you a whole minute there to talk.
Okay.
All right. So an example, like for standardized, do you find, Teresa? So I'm just now making this connection for myself when I'm working for people. Sometimes they really struggle with the systems portion, the standardizing portion of the 5 S's. And I'm wondering if that's because as they were growing and as small children, they didn't get this. There was not a lot of standardization in the home. There was not a lot of everything in its right place and having a place. Is there a corollary?
I think there is possibly a correlation there. However, what in my experience, back to that old adage, you measure what you treasure. You standardize what's important to you. If, for example, if you had a man who loves his baseball cards and his entire home is a mess, you can better believe his baseball cards are nice, neat, and orderly. I mean, what is important to you? What do you want to save on? Is it time is important to you? Is it cost of what's important to you? Like, before I would start this in a business setting, I would need to have an interview with the business owner or the leader to say, what are you trying to achieve? Because if I walk in there trying to just 5S everything, I'm going to fail. If you don't speak to the importance of the individual or the team, what you're doing is a waste of time. Does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. I just have a few more slides, I promise. Sustain, again, if I were anyone who did this, I would put together a checklist. So for a home, it would be a chore checklist. Integrating this activity into something that they're already used to is a big help. If you have a new system or if you have a new way of 5S'ing your supplies, have a checklist. Make sure that it's audited by different groups. So you have that accountability factor, that check and balance factor. It works. I'm telling you, it works miracles. Okay. Okay. So this is my questionnaire. If you want to go over it, we can. If not, we have 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah, well, we don't have any questions right now. So let's go ahead and go over this. And if questions pop up, we'll hit them.
Awesome. So which S focuses on keeping things in a certain order? Sort, shine, or set?
What do you think, Tom?
Set.
Is that the final answer?
I think so. Sure.
You are correct. Set in order to make sure that the things that you have decided you use on most frequent basis is where you need it to go. It improves the efficiency and the flow of what you're doing. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. Primary focus of Standardize is on cleanliness. True or false?
False. That one's mine.
Very good.
That's
False.
more about setting systems.
Yeah, setting
Systems.
standards or setting systems to maintain. That I think that's the key here. You don't do something just to do it. There has to be a purpose. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. You set a standard to maintain the work that you've done. During the sort phase, put everything together. True or false?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Oh, sorry. Tom, you got an answer?
I think the answer is yeah, and then we're making some determination as to, do we use this often, rarely, or never?
You ready for the answer?
Yep, that sounds right to me too.
It's false because you have a system. You put daily, weekly, or never. 3 different things.
Right.
Separate, and then you go through each item or each area and you put them into the corresponding bucket or bin or whatever.
So first is the 3 bins and then is the putting them together.
Yes.
All right. So
Sorry,
we have them out of order.
Tricky words there.
Yeah. So we just have them out of order.
So sustain is the most difficult S to achieve because time, space, or kids and pets. Now, remember, this was for the home. Sorry.
For the home, kids and pets.
Yeah.
Very good. That's exactly what it is.
Oh my
But the underlining thing here is the accountability, the ownership, the habits, developing those skills are really what you can use to achieve sustainment. Sustainment is difficult, but it is not impossible. So there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel.
I would also say though, with the sustain, the S, the reason why that is the hardest is because it does. There is such a huge amount of it that has to do with other people,
Yes.
which is very similar to kids and pets. Right?
Yeah,
Other people are in there mucking stuff up and being responsible.
Okay, so that is my presentation, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, that was great. I know Denise was really loving it. Hey, Denise, she and I are always on the same page too. We're always loving the same stuff. So yeah, that's great, Teresa. I think that a lot of this stuff so all of these tools are helpful, right? And if you can just find a tool that makes sense for you, it's like, yes, this makes sense for me. I can do this, and then apply that tool. Now that tool is, a hammer doesn't work on every single problem, but a hammer works on all of the things that need a hammer, right? And there are a lot of things that need hammers. So Leslie is saying that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I figured Leslie would like this too. She's one of the thinking kind of folks. She likes to do things strategically. So yeah, that's great, Teresa.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. This is fun stuff for me. Geekiness, it's like.
I bet you've got some other quality principles in your tool bag that we can talk about.
I would actually love to talk about the voices of your business eventually, because I think those could really hone in on what areas are most profitable and which ones you need help with. And then you kind of put a project plan together to address the ones that need assistance. So.
Well, just to...
I haven't even heard of that idea before. So that definitely sounds interesting to me, Teresa.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd love to. It'd be again, these are the things that I do for fun. I know it's a little
weirdo.
Little weirdo, I know.
No, we understand. We
My brain is
understand.
always moving.
We do understand.
So if you haven't subscribed to Cleaning Business Today, it's really easy. You go to Cleaning Business Today, email, first name, last name. You get our newsletter, late breaking, developments within the industry. You get information about deal day. A lot of reasons to do that. So you want to make sure you subscribe. And I'll drop the link to our resource page. We haven't looked at this in a while, but we're constantly updating it. I think Liz has a PowerPoint deck in here somewhere. I'm told it's here. Can't find it. Here's Don Finn's 40/40 book. Some of his other resources. I'll update and I'll find the link to Liz's presentation. It's probably here. I just don't see it.
For which one, Tom?
Last week, you did a disc and we were going to upload some resources. There's a lot in here. Anywho, we are at the top of the hour. We'll be back tomorrow. Sherry Ann Woolley. We're going to be talking about techniques that saved her $$ during the pandemic.
Her money, folks. Yes.
Teresa, thank you so much. It was fun. Nice meeting you. Look forward to continuing the discussion at a later time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to be fun.
Take care.